Hello, Falcon folks. So I wanted to make this video because there's a feature in Falcon that I think is very interesting. I question if it's documented enough. It's a feature that is overlooked, but for those of us aware of it, it's very interesting, but not very evident how to use. And that is the layer rules. So in Falcon, we have the ability to have layers that have their own key groups and sounds and effects, and we can add additional sort of conditional rules regarding how layers play back. So right now I have a blank new program. I'm going to right click on new program and add layer. That's layer 1. I'm going to right click on new program again and add layer 2. My goal right now is to create a sort of a drum kit with variation and playback of the drum sounds. So layer 1, I'm going to go here to the inspector. I'm going to rename this to kick 1. Layer 2, rename this to kick 2. All right. So now they're both empty. I'm going to add a key group to both. Add key group to layer 1. Add key group to layer 2, kick 2. They default to a sine wave. So here is key group 1, the oscillator in key group 1, or layer 1. I'm going to right click on analog and go to drum. And over here for the other key group, right click on that analog and go to drum. Now they're both the same drum sound mapped across the notes. Not exactly what I want yet. The next thing I'm going to do is I have this key group selected. I'm going to click on the key group down here, move my mouse on the left-hand side, and I can move it to a specific key, map it to a specific key, like so. There we go. I'm going to do the same thing for key group 1 in the other layer. Click on this here, move it to a specific key, C2, I believe is that key. And go over here, mapped to the same key as the other. All right, so now they're both the same sound. What I'm going to work with now are kicks. So with this key group oscillator selected, we have the little menu here, default, drop down, click on that. We have BD, bass drum. I'm going to go to snap for this one. Now I'm going to go to the other oscillator. It's at default. I'm going to click on this, BD. Let's try another kick. I'm going to do electric. All right. Now I'm going to click on the mapped note. Need them a little bit more different. Let me change one of the oscillators. Let me change snap. I want us to really be able to hear noise electro. Okay, cool. So I'm going to solo one of them so we can hear it. Here's kick 1 soloed. Okay. Here's the other one soloed. Okay, pretty different, reasonably. All right, so they're both playing at the same time. That's not my goal. Sounds interesting, not my goal. I want variation of playback. Whenever that note C2 is triggered, I want it to be one kick sound or the other. That's my goal. So now here's the next part. I'm going to right click on one of these layers here. That's here in the mapping section. It brings up this very large menu. Near the bottom we have edit layer rules. I'm going to click on that. And here is the mythical layers rule window. So again, it's not always evident, and it's not always clear how to use this. Has some brief instructions there. Right click to add a new rule. Here's what we're going to do. Right click, add root rule. There we go. Here's the root rule. That doesn't do anything for us at this point. We're now going to right click on that. We have the option to now add a sub rule. A sub rule. All right. So what we want now is the root rule will remain none. We want nothing, no sort of conditional things there. I'm going to click here, the sub rule, right click on that, add sub rule to that. Whenever we do that, it activates the drop down menu where you can now choose what is a part of this rule. For now, I'm working with random cycle. I will click on random cycle right now. Okay. So now I have random cycle rule and the proper selection on the right-hand side. That basically changes the name of the rule. Random cycle rule. And you can see underneath it, now we have random cycle. Notice the wording. Random cycle rule and random cycle. So the rule is defining, in a sense, what I'm calling this condition that is changing things. Underneath it can be the things that will change. I'm going to right-click on random cycle rule one more time, add subrule. Now we have two random cycles underneath it. Notice the nested structure. Two random cycles underneath the cycle rule. Now, notice the right-hand side targets. It's the layers we created, kick 1, kick 2. I'm going to select random cycle and then select kick 1. I'm going to select the other random cycle and then select target kick 2. So what I've structured now is that this random cycle rule is applying a random cycle to these two layers. And the rule is it will cycle between these two layers. By having these two here, these two subrules that are applied to these different target layers, this random cycle rule is randomly selecting between these two layers. I'm going to click on the X here. I'm going to press this note. To make it more evident, I'm going to change a note dramatically, or change one of the drums dramatically. Okay, change it a little bit less. Let me pan this one, pan this key group. Pressing the same note, random cycle between them. Okay, that is kick 1 and kick 2. Now, I'm going to add another layer and another layer. I'm going to rename layer 3 to snare 1 and layer 4 to snare 2. You can see where I'm going. Add key groups to both. And right click, drum, go over here, go to the snare, SD, matic, don't know what that is. And I'm going to have it be D2, change the mapping right here. There we go. Now the other one, right click, drum, over here, SD, Jankoin, great. Go over here, D2, right there. Okay. And let me solo snare 1. All right. Let me solo snare 2. Yeah, pretty different. All right. So now I have additional snares. I'm going to click on Layer Rules, double click on it. It brings this little window here under Events tab. Edit Layer Rules right here. All right, so now I want to do the same thing for the snare. So notice how I did it for the kick. A root rule that's doing nothing in particular, a sub-rule for random cycle rule that is only applying to kick layers. I will follow the same process. Right-click on root rule, add sub-rule, right here. Right-click on this, add sub-rule. This main sub-rule will be random cycle. Right-click on this again, add sub-rule. It now contains two random cycles. I've selected the first one here, target snare 1. I will select the second one, target snare 2. Let's close this. All right. Okay, and kick and snare, a little bit minimal. Here is my script processor. I have a drum machine here added at the parts. If you add this script processor in the new program and try to sort of play this drum machine at the program level, it won't work. I'm using Falcon 3.0. I think the logic is that it's the order of it. The script processor is like maybe happening after the layer rules and the structure of it. So hierarchically, go ahead and place it at the level of the part right here. The next thing you want to do as well is you may have something like this. You can sort of select your sort of presets here, but you'll want to go to settings and you want to make sure to select the proper note that is playing. So for me, I'm actually dealing with C2, if I recall, C2 and D2. So I'm going to go here and then go to C2 for the kick, go here and go to D2 for the snare. So again, that's under the settings button right here for the drum sequencer. And again, if you're wondering how to do that, you would right click on parts, go to add event processor, go to script processor, and then once it's an empty script processor is loaded, over here, you click on this, you go to sequencing, and you go to drum sequencer, and it will bring this window up. Now I'll press play. Here's snare 2 here as well. Let me change that. Change this to D2. I'm not sure about this beat. Or the kick sounds, actually. Let me change this kick sound over here. So one reason I am excited about this approach of this sort of variance is at the key group level, you can't add any reverbs or anything like that, but you can at the layer level. So I'm going to add at the layer level a reverb for one of the snares. That means sometimes a snare will play that has a reverb and sometimes it won't. I can add a delay to this. And let's try maybe a different beat. Okay, so unfortunately every time I change this, it changes this aspect of it. So I have to go back here and change this setting, D2, D2. But there you go. So this is a way in which we can use the layer rules. I'm trying to find the right words, but you're basically creating a rule, and then the sub things you're adding, in a sense, are the functionality that is being applied to the targets you're selecting. So if we look at it as an overview, this random cycle applies to kick 1, this random cycle applies to kick 2, and together they are a part of this random cycle rule. This random cycle applies to snare 1, this random cycle applies to snare 2, and together they are part of this separate random cycle rule. So hopefully that helps you out and sheds a little bit more light on this Falcon feature. If you're interested in more, you can learn more about other Falcon advice I have, and I have a course on Lua scripting for Falcon, and you can go to wvfrm.podia.com to learn more.